Have you ever noticed that the harder you chase something, the further away it seems to slip? You obsess over finding love, and you stay single. You desperately need a job, and every interview falls through. But the moment you stop trying so hard, the moment you genuinely let go, things start falling into place. Why does this happen? Is it just coincidence? Or is there something deeper at work here?
Before we get started, check out the link in the description to download our ebook.
Today, we're exploring one of philosophy's most beautiful paradoxes, that letting go is often the very thing that brings us what we truly want. Let's start with a fundamental question. What is desire? The ancient Stoics had a fascinating take on this. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. What he meant was that our attachment to outcomes, our clinging to how we think things should be, creates most of our pain. The Stoics taught that we should distinguish between what's in our control and what isn't. Your effort, that's yours. The outcome, that belongs to the universe. When you accept this division, something remarkable happens. You stop fighting reality. Stop exhausting yourself trying to force doors that won't open. Now, let's travel east. Buddhism takes this even further with the concept of tanha. Often translated as craving or attachment, the second noble truth states that suffering originates from our attachments. It's not from desire itself, but from our desperate clinging to things, people, and outcomes. The Buddha taught that everything is impermanent. When we try to hold on too tightly, we're essentially fighting against the nature of reality itself. It's like trying to keep water in your hands by squeezing your fists tighter. The tighter you grip, the more it slips away. Here's where it gets interesting. Both traditions aren't telling you to stop wanting things. They're pointing to something more subtle. It's the difference between preference and attachment, between wanting and needing, between hoping and demanding. The existentialists add another layer to this. Sartre talked about bad faith, the ways we lie to ourselves and try to avoid the anxiety of freedom. When we become obsessively attached to a specific outcome, we're often trying to escape the uncertainty of existence. We want guarantees in a world that offers none. But here's the paradox. The more we try to control everything, the less free we become. We become prisoners of our own expectations. Let me tell you about Sarah. She spent 2 years desperately trying to get promoted at her company. She worked late every night, said yes to every project, and constantly worried about how her boss perceived her. She became anxious, burned out, and ironically, her performance suffered. Then she had enough. She decided to focus on doing good work for its own sake, regardless of whether it led to promotion. She set boundaries. She stopped checking her email at midnight. She invested energy in learning new skills that interested her, even if they weren't directly related to her current role. 3 months later, she was offered a position at a different company. Better role, better pay. But here's what matters more. She would have been okay if that hadn't happened. She'd already found peace. Or consider the classic dating scenario. You meet someone you really like, and immediately your mind starts writing the whole story. You text them constantly. You make yourself too available. You subtly pressure them for commitment, and they pull away. Why? Because desperation has a smell. When you need someone to complete you, to validate you, to save you, it creates pressure. It transforms a potential connection into a transaction. But when you genuinely let go of the outcome, when you enjoy someone's company without needing them to be anything more than what they are right now, things change. You become attractive because you're whole on your own. Here's a personal example from my own life. I once wanted to be a published writer more than anything. I sent out manuscripts, obsessively checked my email for responses, and fell into depression with each rejection. My writing became forced, trying too hard to be what I thought publishers wanted. Then I stopped. I wrote for myself. I shared things online without attachment to how they performed. I focused on the craft, not the outcome. Eventually, opportunities came. But more importantly, I'd already found what I was really looking for, the joy of writing itself. So what's happening here psychologically? Does letting go work? First, there's what psychologists call the law of reverse effort, or the backwards law. The philosopher Alan Watts explained this brilliantly. The more you try to force relaxation, the more tense you become. The harder you try to fall asleep, the more awake you are. The more you need to be happy, the more miserable you feel. This happens because desperate effort activates our stress response. When we're in fight or flight mode, we actually become less effective. Our thinking narrows. We make worse decisions. We miss opportunities that are right in front of us because we're so focused on forcing one specific outcome. Second, attachment creates what psychologists call confirmation bias. When you're desperately attached to something, you interpret everything through that lens. You misread situations, you see threats where there aren't any, you create self-fulfilling prophecies. Think about someone who's terrified of rejection. They're so attached to being accepted that they become hypervigilant, reading negative signals into neutral interactions. This makes them anxious and awkward, which actually increases the likelihood of rejection. Third, there's the concept of flow state. Athletes call it being in the zone. It's when you perform your best. And here's the key. You cannot force flow. It emerges when you're focused on the process, not the outcome. When you're fully present, not anxiously attached to results. Neuroscience backs this up. When we're in a state of anxious attachment, our prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for creative problem solving, actually becomes less active. We literally become dumber when we're desperate. But when we let go, when we accept uncertainty, something shifts. We become more open to possibilities. We notice opportunities we would have missed. We make better decisions. We show up as our best selves. There's also the psychological principle of scarcity versus abundance mindset. When you're desperately attached to one outcome, you're operating from scarcity. You believe this is your only chance, your only option. This creates tunnel vision. Letting go is often about shifting to abundance. It's not in a toxic positivity way, but in recognizing that there are multiple paths forward. When you release your grip on one specific outcome, you open yourself to possibilities you couldn't even imagine. So how do we actually practice this? How do we let go without giving up? First, get clear on your deeper why. Often what we think we want isn't what we actually want. You think you want that specific job, but what you really want is security, challenge, or purpose. When you connect with the deeper need, you realize there are many ways to fulfill it. Ask yourself, what am I really looking for here? Is it this specific thing, or is it the feeling I believe this thing will give me? Second, practice process over outcome. Set goals, but invest your energy in the daily practice, not the result. If you want to write a book, focus on writing for 30 minutes each day. Enjoy those 30 minutes. Let go of whether it becomes a bestseller. This isn't about lowering your standards. It's about putting your energy where you actually have power. Third, use the Stoic exercise of negative visualization, but with a twist. Don't imagine the worst to scare yourself. Imagine not getting what you want, and then ask, would I be okay? Could I find meaning and peace anyway? Usually the answer is yes. This realization itself is freedom. Fourth, create space between wanting and needing. It's okay to want things. It's okay to try. But notice when wanting becomes needing, when preference becomes attachment. That's the moment to pause and breathe. Simple practice. When you notice yourself desperately attached to an outcome, say this to yourself. I'd love for this to happen, and I'll be okay if it doesn't. Mean it. Feel the difference. Fifth, practice presence. Attachment is always about the future. Letting go returns you to now. When you're fully engaged with what's in front of you, you're not clinging to what's not yet here. Sixth, take aligned action, then release. This is crucial. Letting go doesn't mean passivity. Do what you can, do it well, then let the universe handle the rest. As the Bhagavad Gita teaches, you have a right to your actions, but not to the fruits of your actions. Finally, notice what opens up when you let go. Pay attention to the new possibilities, the unexpected paths, the doors you didn't even know existed. Letting go isn't about loss. It's about making room for something different, sometimes something better, to enter. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Doesn't this sound like giving up? Like settling? Like not caring about your goals? It's a fair question. Our culture worships hustle, determination, relentless pursuit. We're told winners never quit. We're sold the myth that if you just want something badly enough, you'll get it. But here's the problem with that narrative. It confuses effort with attachment. You can work incredibly hard toward a goal while remaining unattached to the outcome. In fact, you'll probably work better. Think about it. When an Olympic athlete steps up to compete, do you think they're thinking, I absolutely must win, or my life is over? The best athletes talk about focusing on their performance, on executing what they've practiced, on being present. That's letting go of outcome while maintaining commitment to process. Another concern, doesn't this lead to passivity? If I let go, won't I stop trying? Only if you confuse letting go with giving up. They're completely different. Giving up is quitting. Letting go is releasing your grip on how things must be. You can still want something, still work toward it, still care deeply. You're just not attached to it happening in one specific way on one specific timeline. Some might argue this is just privileged spirituality. Easy to let go when you have options, right? I hear this. And yes, there are situations where stakes are genuinely high, where survival is on the line. But even then, or especially then, the anxiety of desperate attachment doesn't help. It clouds judgment. It leads to panic decisions. Even in difficult circumstances, there's a difference between taking urgent action and acting from desperate attachment. Finally, someone might say, but I got what I wanted by not letting go, by being persistent and determined. Great, I'm genuinely happy for you. Persistence matters. But ask yourself, were you persistently working towards something, or desperately attached to a specific outcome? Were you enjoying the journey, or suffering through it? Would you have been destroyed if it hadn't worked out? There's a difference between committed pursuit and desperate clinging. One creates from a place of fullness, the other from a place of lack. Here's what I want you to take away from this. Letting go isn't about caring less. It's about caring more wisely. It's about knowing the difference between what you can control and what you can't. It's about trusting that you'll be okay, regardless of how things unfold. The things you're desperately chasing, the outcomes you're white-knuckling toward, they might come, they might not. But when you let go of needing them to come, something remarkable happens. You stop suffering over their absence. You become more effective in their pursuit. You open yourself to possibilities you couldn't see before. The poet Rumi wrote, "Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray." Notice he didn't say push yourself, force yourself, desperately cling to yourself. He said let yourself be drawn. There's a current beneath all your striving, beneath all your anxiety, beneath all your attachment.
Amen.
It knows where you're meant to go better than your worried mind does. But you can only feel it when you stop thrashing. So here's my invitation to you. Pick one thing you're desperately attached to right now. It's just one. And practice letting go. Not giving up. Not stopping your efforts. Just releasing your grip on how it must unfold. Do your work. Take your action. Then release it to the universe and trust that whatever comes will be what you need to learn, to grow, to become who you're meant to be. Sometimes what you really want is exactly what you think you want. Sometimes it's something completely different. Sometimes it's not a thing at all, but a way of being. But you'll never know until you loosen your grip and let life surprise you. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. What are you ready to let go of? And I'll see you in the next video.